Now, let's go through some of the points in the book. Phones. Let's talk about phones. How would you cut back on your phone use if indeed you think that's a good thing to do?
Well, I sort of try to situate this in like why is that a problem in the context of this kind of case I'm trying to lay out, and I guess that fits into this whole notion of convenience and the ways in which convenience has downsides. That phones are just one of the most obvious means by which we like access the apps that make our lives more convenient. And that again connects to this whole Silicon Valley ethos of trying to sort of smooth life out and reduce what they call pain points by making things easier to do. And just sort of pushing back against that with the observation that actually life being smoother and easier is not always what you want for the most meaningful life possible, right? So the obvious examples are things like there was a whole campaign by Seamless, the US-based food delivery service, about how you didn't have to using their app, you didn't even have to talk to a human being at any point in the process of ordering your food. Uber and Lyft and those kind of services are obvious examples of kind of removing the pain point of having to find a taxi firm and call them. And all of these things sort of, it can sound a little melodramatic to object to any one of these, because it's not like the interaction you would have had with a live person on the phone at the takeaway restaurant, would have made all the difference to anything. But I think in aggregate, that is it has an atomizing effect, has an effect of sort of isolating people. It makes it a lot easier to do. You end up doing the things that are easiest rather than the things that you really wanted to do. So I quote Tim Wu, an American law professor, who points out that like there's some lovely quote from him about how he prefers to brew his own coffee, but the Starbucks instant coffee now that is kind of higher quality than old-fashioned instant coffee is so good that I hardly ever do what I prefer, which is kind of a really interesting thought. And also that it creates this kind of awkward problem where all the things that are still inconvenient and are not been smoothed out are much more frustrating to have to do. So that if it's really easy to access up-to-date information about what's happening in Australia on your phone in seconds, it's kind of worse and more enraging that you have to then like wait in a traffic jam to get somewhere in your car. And I'm not sure if it's true that like road rage has increased since other aspects of life became smoother and more convenient. So I don't want to make that claim, but you could well imagine that kind of thing being the case. And the fact that it seems to be so much more frustrating to wait for food in the microwave than food in the oven, even though the microwave was supposedly there to save you time and solve your time problems. It seems to have added a time problem, which is frustration. So I've got a bit far away from how you use your phone less. I can talk about that, but I think really when you start to see what's going on here, it becomes a little bit easier to let your phone go a bit, and because you can sort of perceive the ways in which this is getting in the way of what you want for your life.
Well, I've heard the comment that the internet gives you what you want, but it doesn't give you what you need. So you get all this stuff. It's really easy. It's frictionless, as you say. Amazon delivers before you've even thought about the thing that you want to get. Get Here in London is now delivering in 10 minutes. Something that you want right now.
Yeah.
But when that happens, you're missing out on all sorts of other things. I mean, I think you talk at one point in the book about being stuck in a queue. Well, that could be seen as immensely frustrating. Waiting. It could be an opportunity to talk to people on either side of you in the queue and have a bit of sort of downtime, if you like.
Yeah, there's this weird relationship between the effort that things take and the fulfillment that they bring. And I mentioned also these when I was living in the States and lots of family here, in the UK, I would very often leave the sending of birthday cards, so late that I ended up having to use those services where you go online and generate a birthday card and then it gets mailed locally. And it's fine, whatever. It's better than totally forgetting. But but of course, I think the people who receive those cards know that they are a bit less meaningful to get those cards than if you've taken the time and the trouble, because it actually isn't the thought that counts, right? It's the effort. It's the fact that it's the inconvenience, the fact that you had to.
There's some sacrifice of your time going on. I mean, it's like a sort of the gift economy or something. You've slightly suffered.
Yes, no, exactly, and yes, and you've suffered both in having to, that it's more labour, and also that you had to put in the effort of thinking about it in enough time. And of course, I would be much more likely to do that if those services didn't exist. So that's a good example, I guess, of the way that convenience sort of lures us in, and then doesn't result. The time saved does not result in my spending the saved time feeling wonderfully relaxed. It just fills again with more to dos.